You ever get that weird feeling where you think you really know someone? Like, deep down, and then suddenly you learn there's a whole side you've never even sniffed? It's a little like stumbling on a hidden room in a house you've lived in forever. That's pretty much what's going on right now with Savannah Guthrie. I gotta warn you, this story spins off in directions I never saw coming. Stick around. We're going way under the surface. So, we've all been wrapped up in the mystery of Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. She's 84, this quiet grandmother, just vanished out of her Tucson home on the last day of January 2026. No evidence of foul play, blood on the porch, her pacemaker silent, nothing stolen, no signs of forced entry. 10 days, and the whole country's buzzing. Seriously, what happened here? Sure, we dug up Nancy's secret life already. Turns out, for 30 years she'd sneak off to Santa Fe, slipping into another identity as Elena, a muse for artists, the woman who danced all night at fiestas and painted the desert under a name nobody in Tucson ever heard. That detail alone changed everything people thought they knew about her family. But Nancy wasn't the only Guthrie moonlighting, not even close. Morning of February 10th, the Guthries were huddled together, tired, running on cold coffee and sheer anxiety, in their rented command center. Then Savannah's phone rings. And just like that, the ground shifts. Again. It wasn't the cops or an FBI agent. The voice was a woman. Mid-50s, calm but with a weird urgency. The first words spilled out. "Savannah, it's Elena. We need to talk. About your mother. And about everything you've kept hidden all these years." Savannah just froze. Elena. A name she hadn't heard out loud in public since she was a kid. A name tied to a whole other life she'd buried so deep even her siblings didn't know about it. People nearby say Savannah's famous composure, the thing the world saw on TV, that legendary steeliness, just snapped. Her voice got tight, almost panicked. "Not now. Not like this. How the hell did you even find me?" But Elena pressed on. She rattled off details nobody outside the family would know. Places from the early 90s, secret meetups in Tucson. Then she mentioned a locket. Savannah had given it to her years ago. No way out. No denying any of it. "Your mother's disappearance isn't random," Elena said. "It ties back to us, to what we built. If you don't come clean, it'll destroy everything." Savannah hung up, hands trembling. She slipped back inside, white as a sheet, and pulled her siblings into a private emergency huddle. No agents, no outsiders, just Annie, Cameron, and the messy truth she'd been dragging around for 30 years. To even start understanding it, you've got to go way back. Late 80s, Tucson. Savannah Guthrie was 16, a kid in the suburbs, living under a mountain of expectations. People always imagined Savannah as the polished Today Show host, the journalist with the tough questions at White House press briefings. But before all that, before NBC, before she became a household name, she was just a teenager, dealing with heartbreak. When her dad died from a heart attack, Savannah's world cracked open. Nancy stepped into the gap. She became the family's anchor, the strong one, the woman who did everything possible to keep her kids together. Nancy was all about grit. Choose joy, be strong, be independent, don't show weakness. Emotions were tucked away. Performance was everything. And Savannah crushed it. Straight A student, debate team star, headed to University of Arizona. The outside looked perfect, but beneath it all, she was suffocating. She adored her mom, but Nancy's love had rules and expectations, her blueprint for life, and Savannah was desperate for some oxygen, a place to just be herself. Then, Elena Ramirez walked into her life. This was 1988. Elena was 19, an artist, an activist, running an underground youth group for Tucson teens searching for a safe space, years before that phrase had any real meaning. Savannah saw a flyer at school, and it promised a place to just be. She showed up. Elena was magnetic. She didn't care what people thought. She saw the spark in Savannah straight away, buried under all that good daughter shine. They became friends, and slowly, quietly, turned into something more. You have to remember, this was the late 80s in a strict Tucson household. There was absolutely no way Savannah could bring any of this home to Nancy. So she didn't. She invented a whole other identity. She called herself Clark. Her middle name, someone looser, bolder. A version who penned poetry and went to rallies. A person who existed entirely outside Guthrie family rules. And that hidden room, that secret edge of herself, it started right there. Savannah carried Clark with her for years. Even as she packed up for college, dragged herself through law school, and pieced together the jagged path of her journalism career, she never let him go. Every so-called family weekend in Tucson, those were her getaways, plain and simple. When her mom, Nancy, pictured her daughter hunched over textbooks or schmoozing with future employers, Savannah was slipping into Elena's orbit. The wild corners of the city, the everything-goes art parties, the activism pulsing through the streets, the honest mess just beneath the surface. In those hours, nobody needed her to be the family's golden child. Elena wasn't just a confidant, she was home base, the only person who saw all sides of Savannah, the anxious one, the one who kept the whole world at arm's length, even from herself. Their late-night conversations didn't just stay secret, they were sacred. They traded hopes in whispers and talked out their worst fears. Elena heard all the questions Savannah would never dare bring home. She let me be scared, Savannah told her siblings that morning, her voice low. With her, I didn't have to be perfect. I didn't have to keep pretending. But success only made the secret sharper. Each promotion, each leap from local news to bigger TV markets, each time Savannah's face lit up a screen under the NBC banner, Nancy would beam and say, "That's my Savannah. She made it. She's unstoppable." And honestly, that mattered. It was all Savannah had chased, maybe her whole life. Except now, every step up, every public win, the secret grew heavier, because she knew being truly honest would shatter Nancy's vision. It wasn't just about Elena, it was Clark. The parts of herself shaped in rebellion and pain, stuff her mother would never accept, or at least Savannah feared she wouldn't. Mom loved me so much, Savannah tried to explain later. She built me up so I could make it through anything, but staying strong meant never letting her see the parts that hurt. So for 30 years, Savannah just kept Elena, and all that came with her, tucked away. Not just while she rose through TV ranks, or got married, or became a mom. Even as her own life twisted and evolved, she and Elena kept weaving in and out of each other's lives. Elena drifted into a quieter life, teaching art in a Tucson suburb, but whenever they managed to meet, all the feelings came rushing back. The secret was their bond, and it held, until Nancy vanished. Suddenly, Elena was watching Savannah plastered across TV screens and news updates, heart pounding, piecing together raw details no one else could see. Because the story behind Nancy's disappearance wasn't just a missing person case, it was tangled up in their past. Back in the early 90s, Savannah and Elena joined a scrappy activist collective in Tucson. They organized rallies, started petitions, all those causes Nancy would have flagged as trouble and flashing lights. And part of their world was Ricky Torres. Ricky was as unpredictable as they come. Temper like a storm. Always almost in handcuffs. One rally went sideways, and he turned on the group. Threatened them. Then, instead of storming off, he sort of faded into shadow. Disappeared, but with a sense of unfinished business. After all these years, Elena never fully let go of his memory. But when Nancy vanished, not a typical crime, no theft, just a bloody absence, all Elena could think about was Ricky and the way he'd once talked about Clark. If he ever managed to connect the dots, figured out who Clark became, if he'd been watching Savannah's steady climb all these years, biding his time, then this wasn't a random tragedy. It was payback. Not attacking Savannah directly, but hitting her right where it would break her. Her mother. So, Elena didn't show up to that FBI meeting empty-handed. She came in clutching a small envelope, fingers tense, like maybe she was afraid she'd drop it or someone might take it from her. Inside, photos that smelled faintly of old paper and cigarettes, letters from a time when people still wrote them by hand, and a crumpled sheet crammed with names. A callback to the days when everything felt electric, urgent, out on the streets. One name on that list didn't look like the others. She'd circled it in red, pressed so hard the ink bled through. Ricky Torres. By the time the sun started sliding down the sky, the FBI had cracked open his file. Ricky Torres, a ghost, really, the sort of guy who gets talked about in the past tense. No current phone number, no fixed address. He'd been invisible for years, but then there it was, a DMV flag from Tucson, not even a month old. One of Nancy's neighbors had seen a man who looked like him hanging around the block 2 weeks before she vanished. Nobody was calling it a smoking gun. There wasn't enough for that, not yet. But after 10 days of chasing after people who didn't want to be found, dodging dead ends and dead air, even the flimsiest thread felt like a miracle. Something to pull on. Sometimes, that's all you need to keep moving. Here's what keeps running laps in my head as I sit with this story. Nancy Guthrie, the quintessential dignified widow, holding her losses close, never remarrying, always stable, always fine. And Savannah, her daughter, who played the part of the perfect, unflappable prodigy. They loved each other fiercely, but both clawed their way through life, hiding the parts of themselves that didn't match the picture. Two women, desperate to look unbreakable for each other, holding tight to secrets they thought might shatter everything if they slipped out. It's wild, isn't it? 30 years, pretending right across from each other at the kitchen table, hoping the other wouldn't see the cracks, when maybe, just maybe, the thing they needed most was permission to stop pretending. Mom's love meant everything, Savannah told me, but if I wanted to keep it, I had to play by the rules. Elena? She was freedom, my secret self, the me that didn't fit the rules. And here's where I have to pause, because doesn't that hit you right in the gut? Honestly, isn't it just human? The way the people who mean the most can also, without meaning to, make you feel like you've got to pass a test just to keep their love. So you learn to play a part. You cut away the soft, wild, and wounded parts so the people you love won't turn away. Getting truly seen, with all the mess, starts to feel riskier than anything else. Nancy raised Savannah to be tough as nails, but in teaching her to never break, she accidentally convinced her that breaking was just about the worst thing a person could do. So Savannah built walls. She locked away every fear, every doubt, every flicker of uncertainty, out of sight, out of conversation. She loved her mom from behind that stack of